So we're back once again to do another linguistic analysis of today's chapter of One Piece, especially since a big part of the chapter is focused on a Japanese board game many will likely not be familiar with, and even Kaido's hybrid form hides some roots in Japanese mythology. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting off when Luffy's Gear 4th runs out and he falls to the ground, Kid wonders if he was attacked, but Law clarifies this is simply a natural effect of this technique. This is because Law was present when Luffy was using the Dressrosa and even helped him recover during that cooldown time. However, just like Luffy, Law couldn't really bother to recall the name of it, so instead of calling it Gear 4th, Law calls it that Iron Ball looking move. Big Mom goes after Luffy by using a new technique where she coats Cognac, the upgraded form of Napoleon, in fire and slams him down to deliver a blazing slash. This move is called Haha no Hi. In Japanese, mother can be called Haha. This is the reason why Big Mom's laugh is like Mama, mama, ha 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 ha, because, mama means mother, mama, and haha also means mother in Japanese. Though in this case the first of the two has is replaced with another kanji, the kanji for blade, which can also be read as ha, making haha in this case read as blade-wielding mother. So it's a mother with a giant sword. However, the real pun here lies in the fact that haha no hi has the kanji reading of blade-wielding mother's blaze. Blaze is in fire because it's the fire she's creating, which is also pronounced as haha no hi. But to any Japanese person, haha no hi will much more obviously be associated with a far simpler reading, because in Japanese, haha no hi simply means Mother's Day. So the attack blade-wielding Mother's Blaze becomes a pun for blade-wielding Mother's Day. Kaido twists around his body and summons a series of tornadoes in an attack he names Tatsumaki. Zoro is surprised by this attack and says, "You've gotta be kidding me." The reason for this is because this attack shares the name with one of Zoro's iconic techniques, also known as Tatsumaki, which he has used many times before in the series, so Oda is joking that Kaido basically stole Zoro's attack. Though the real joke here is that, Tatsumaki is the Japanese word for tornado, but the etymology for Tatsumaki is, quite literally, Dragon Twister, which is why we often see a dragon depicted when Zoro uses this technique. The reason for it is because it was believed that tornadoes were caused by dragons rotating around and causing large gusts of wind. In fact, in Eastern mythology, dragons are often associated with a lot of meteorological effects and even natural disasters, as Zoro points out here, which is why Kaido is able to wield so many elements and so many, weather effects such as thunder, winds, or, blasts of fire, because it fits with the mythology of a dragon. In this case, Kaido is actually a giant dragon twisting around to create a tornado, so the etymology of that word in Japanese makes more sense here than it does in Zoro's attack. Zoro, though, responds to Kaido quote-unquote stealing his attack by using his own Tatsumaki, though in this case he uses the upgraded version of the attack he used at Fishman Island, called Kokujo o Tatsumaki. O in this case simply means great, as in, great tornado, but Kokujo means black thread, though in this case more specifically it refers to the Kala Sutra. The Kala Sutra is one of the Naraka, also known as the hells in Buddhist belief, where it is said that condemned are wrapped in black ropes, which the demons of hell follow to cut through their skin an infinite amount of times. This is likely what is being referenced here, because Zoro's attack is a tornado of slashes that slashes those trapped within it an infinite number of times. By the way, Kaido comments after being slashed that the pain he feels reminds him of Odin, feeling Odin's aura from that sword. This could potentially relate to something that Kawamatsu mentioned earlier in Wano, stating that the soul inside a katana makes the samurai who wields it strong. Now, personally, I don't think this means that Odin's soul is actually inside Enma or anything like that, but I think it might be more something like his lingering haki being inside of it, in the same way that Kokuto, black blades, are implied to be this way because of all the haki that went into them. This could relate to what Hitetsu said to Zoro, that he had the potential to turn Enma into a Kokuto, a black blade, just like Shusui. Kaido then, funnily enough, comments on Zoro stealing his own attack, unaware that Zoro had the royalties to it in the first place, but he retaliates with an attack he names Tatsumaki Kaihu. This is an attack that combines both his Tatsumaki attack from this chapter and the Kaihu he used in the previous chapter, making the full kanji reading read as Dragon Twister Destructive Wind. We then switch to the members of CP0 commanding on the battle. We had seen these members of CP0 back in Wano trying to trade with Orochi, and we had hints of this weapon trade across this entire arc. There was also a particularly interesting scene where someone dealing the weapons wondered if those acquiring them were about to start a war. Considering how desperate CP0 was for weapons, I wonder if this is indeed what they are trying to focus on. Could this relate with the purge that the Gorosei and Imusama mentioned? At the very least, it seems that the government is preparing for something big, no doubt, hinting at the conflict in the final saga. Anyway, one of the CP0 members comments how after the Flamingo's downfall, the clash between Kaido and the worst generation was inevitable, especially since Kaido's smile trait was affected. This is something that Doflamingo also mentioned all the way back in chapter 801, saying that he was the one holding the reins and now that he has fallen, things will shift drastically in the world and the government might be at risk. The interesting thing is that this CP0 member mentions how the samurai and the worst generation meeting here seems to be an act of fate. This word, fate, is the exact same word that Yamato used in chapter 999 to describe how there is no way it's just a coincidence that Luffy, Ace's brother, ended up being the one Momonosuke met to help save Wano. And even more so, this might be because he has a D in his name. CP0 continues to elaborate on the battle, claiming that even if Kaido and Big Mom were to be defeated, the officers need to be taken down as well, which relates to the battles the Straw Hats are having and indicate that the Straw Hats are also needed to win, which is a nice touch because it shows that, it's not just about the big battle with Luffy, but all the other battles are also very important. This entire conflict is depicted through a game of Go, to help illustrate the chances of each side. This is the reason why the chapter is titled Banjo no Yoru, or Born Night. Banjo no Yoru, or Born Night, is also the name of a famous Japanese novel which relates to playing Go. I'm not sure if the connection is intentional, but it could be possible. Now, some of you could be familiar with Go, but I imagine many of you might not be, so allow me to explain it a little. Go, which literally means encirclement board game in its etymology, is a Chinese board game that was imported to Japan. That is quite similar to chess, but is more focused around not just defeating enemy pieces, but also around capturing territory as well. Just like chess, Go is played on a board, but the difference is that unlike chess, which is played with a finite number of pieces that move each turn, Go uses an unlimited number of what are called stones, white or black discs, that can only be moved once. Each turn a player places a stone on the board, though unlike chess they are not placed inside the squares but in the intersections, and once a stone is placed down, it cannot be moved ever again. The aim of the game is to capture territory, which can only be done when an area is completely surrounded by your stones, and you want each of your capture areas to be as big as you can, but if an enemy places a piece inside your area, you might not be able to capture it, so you have to play very strategically. That said though, just like chess, you can defeat enemy stones, but it is a bit more tricky. To defeat an enemy stone, you need to surround them with your stones in all 4 cardinal directions. If you do so, that enemy stone is lost. You can also take several enemy stones as long as you cover them on every cardinal direction. These can allow you to break walls of territories, denying an enemy from holding a territory, or to remove enemy pieces from your own territory, or just to defeat enemy pieces in general, since doing so does grant points. However, you must surround an enemy piece on all 4 corners, and depending on how the enemy or you might position, you can condition a situation where that is impossible, making your pieces safe from being defeated and allowing you to properly defend a territory. It's being able to find strategic ways to place your stones so you can protect your territories that is the key to success. Once the game ends and all reasonable territory has been conquered, the points are tallied, and the one who has both taken the most territory spaces, which give 1 point each, and taken the most enemy stones, which also grant 1 point each, all added together, wins the game. If you are interested in trying this game, if it's just for fun, if you're just curious about it, I'll leave a link in the description to a site where you can play the game online against other players or just against the bot in case you're starting out. It's really fun, requires a lot of cool strategizing, so if you're curious about it, I definitely recommend to give it a shot. But yeah, all that aside, how does this relate to the chapter? Well, as the CP0 member explains, in a normal game of Go, both players are playing equally, with a number of infinite pieces. But in this case, they are not equal, because the Beast Pirates simply have greater numbers, comparing the Samurai to 5 white pieces, representing 5,000 men, and the Beast Pirates to 27 black pieces, representing 2,700 men. In this game, the white players have limited pieces they can play, so unavoidably the black pieces are able to easily surround them and completely block all exits, making them easily lose the game. What the CP0 member is trying to get at is that he is implying that with such low numbers, the enemy will simply prevail, that it is impossible for the White Stones to win, leading to an inevitable defeat. But this is because CP0 underestimates the true strength of Luffy's crewmates. It's not just Luffy alone who has made it this far in this journey, because he can't become the Pirate King alone, because he needs his friends to help him achieve that. And just like that, in this chapter, once again we see that. We see that Luffy needs his friends to achieve what he wants to do. And it is with his friends that he will be able to prevail in this battle, to come out victorious, to free Wano, and to party at the end of it all. The chapter closes off with Kaido transforming into his hybrid form. As we've seen before, Zoan users have 3 forms. Their original form, the one they had before eating the fruit, their transformed form, where they fully transform into the animal, and their hybrid form, where the body of the animal manifests itself in a human form. So it's a bit of a mix between human and animal form, which tends to be the strongest for Zoan users. This is showing that Kaido is finally getting serious, since we haven't seen it used before. However, did you know that Kaido's hybrid form is not just a part of how devil fruits naturally work, but also potentially a reference to Japanese mythology? Because in Eastern mythology, dragons are usually depicted as large serpentine creatures that fly through the skies, but at times they are also said to be able to shapeshift into a more human-like form. Some are said to completely take the form of humans, but many are said to look more humanoid-like, while still retaining a dragon-like head, scales, and other dragon features, which could match up with Kaido's hybrid design. So it's totally possible that Kaido's hybrid design takes some cues from Japanese mythology and might resemble some depictions of shape-shifting dragons. But yeah, that's all for this week. Kaido's hybrid form is really exciting, but what are you expecting from it? Let me know, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.